Welcome to Unstoppable at Craig, where we pull back the curtain on what makes healthy workplace cultures click and what happens when people are empowered to expand the boundaries of what is possible. We'll explore the perspectives of employees and leaders who have carte blanche to speak their truths, tell their stories, and unlock uncommon ways of approaching challenges. I am Dr. Jandel Allen Davis, CEO and President of Craig Hospital, a world-renowned rehabilitation hospital that exclusively specializes in the neurorehabilitation and research of patients with spinal cord and brain injury. Join me as we learn from people who love what they do and what happens when fear doesn't stifle innovation. Earlier this week, I had a chance to talk with Joe Fangman from our team, as well as Tom Carr, about the research benefits of play, as well as how they bring play into the work, as their work as leaders and into their work as team members. And today, we get to talk to, I love this phrase, two culture champions at Craig. Maybe I should call the two culture champions at Craig. Fred Rogers, who we know, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, who was just chock full of so much wisdom that we say is, sort of owned by children. But my firm belief is if we adults listened deeply to Mr. Rogers, we would be a much better place and in a much better world and much better people. And what Fred Rogers said is, it's the things we play with and the people who help us play that make a great difference in our lives. And you two are the folks who help us play. I get to be here today with Sara Pittman, who works in our Craig Foundation as the digital philanthropy specialist, and Sara Purdy, who most of the time, anytime I see her, there's something she says that makes me laugh. I know that, who actually works with our spinal cord injury and brain injury inpatients as a clinical care manager. But together, they're the masterminds behind Halloween, which is only one of the things we'll explore today at Craig in recent years. I want to just start by having you all answer a really big question around this idea of the various ways, stepping back from how you stepped in to do this work, and just talk a little bit about how we play at Craig, because Mr. Rogers would be very proud of Craig, I think, in terms of how we show up.
I would agree with that. I think play is ingrained in us in every single day, every single task we do, whether it's obvious or not. To me, play at Craig it means that we care. It means that we're willing to make ourselves look silly for the benefit of someone else, potentially, break out of that shell and really try something new, or get back in touch with the child in us and just let go for a minute. And if we're too serious all the time, like, nobody's going to want to be here. And you see that in how long staff works here. I've been here 6.5 years and I'm still considered new. If it was too serious, I don't think that would be the case.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thanks for sharing that. And I love that we bring out the child in each other. I love that, which isn't hard for some of us. That's what I'd say. And that wasn't an introduction to you, Sara.
That's okay. I love being known as the one that brings out the child in people.
Absolutely. How do you think about how Craig plays?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on what Sara said, that we just kind of bring it out with everything we can. Halloween is... I'll start with that since that's kind of our bread and butter, but,
we may or may not have our theme already, not to interrupt you, but...
I mean, people come up with their themes so early. They start planning. OTs and PTs start working with the patients that we know are going to be here for it. It's such a fun event, and people know about it, and we have a reputation for it. And, at the holiday time, we weren't sure if we should do a gingerbread house competition, and now it's like
this. Oh, no, it's a thing.
It's a monstrous, there are mansions being made.
They're
with, stained glass windows and moving pieces and,
song.
Yeah. And the first time we recommended it, we thought, I don't know, do you think people will get we might have one or two people do it. Now it's I feel like we could have one of those shows on the Food Network where it's professional pastry chefs doing it. They're so good. And it shows how much talent's at Craig and how much we like to play.
We like to play. And we add a little healthy dose of competition.
Oh.
Always.
Competition in this place.
It's healthy.
It's healthy.
Yes. Oh, it's in good spirit, always. But Halloween with the golden pumpkin, trike races with the golden trike, and then the departments proudly display them.
Unless I steal them.
Unless you steal, I mean.
Which I'm known to do.
Oh, it's so hilarious when people who don't know, and I had several patients this year say, Sara, you told me this was a big deal at Craig, and I believed you. I believe you. But like, whoa.
I mention it at every new employee orientation. Pretty much there's not one that goes by that I don't say, wait till Halloween.
Yeah. So. We do the same, honestly, in a lot of our interviews. We'll find a way to kind of sneak it in there and kind of test, are they playful, to kind of see the culture fit there. We definitely bring up Halloween, and we've definitely then had staff who have joined the team after seeing Halloween for the first time. They're like, I get it now. Yeah. I understand. I didn't think it was going to be what it was, but my goodness, that was special.
What I find, and I'd be curious, Sara, what you think about this, is here I can bring my whole self to work. I'm silly at home sometime. When I trip over the furniture at home sometime, or I laugh like a hyena all the time.
Yes.
But this ability to bring your whole self to work is a unique thing.
100%. 100%. And I do see that, and I kind of see the light that comes in someone's eyes when they are a new hire and they might be a little hesitant at first. I mean, I was when I first started. I was thinking, okay, I come to work, I do my job, I go home, I come to work, I do my job, I go, the routine of it. But the more I was here, the more I realized, oh my gosh, wait a minute. People, enjoy each other's company. We are here for the mission, and that's a uniting factor. But then again, when I see a new hire who's like, wait a minute, I can be me. In the simplest form of, hey, we each have our version of a candy dish on our desk, right? And we share that with each other. And it's like, come over and see what I brought today. Like little tiny things. And then that morphs into big that gives people the confidence to kind of break out of their shell and not just be an employee, but be part of the family.
And I think, too, it's not only recommended that you have fun here, it's encouraged. And that's another thing. I mean, I remember one time at a previous job, we were given coloring books, the adult coloring books that when they first came out, and some colored pencils. And it was kind of like, here, this is for self-care, take it home. Kind of like that kind of a feeling. Yeah. And, when we had our coloring pages.
Go care for yourself at home.
Yeah, make sure you do that on your off time.
Work here.
And, when we had the coloring sheets here, it was like, and then turn in what you do, and we'll put it up on the wall. And, you go up to fourth floor nursing, and there was all the pictures that people had colored. And you'd go by, and when nurses had a little bit of downtime, you'd see them coloring on their coloring sheets with their little Craig-colored pencils that we had gotten through Culture Committee. And seeing the different departments working on their gingerbread houses. I mean, I'm all over this hospital seeing patients, and so I'd be like, oh, what's
are you up to?
Doing over there? And you can see people are engaging in that play. They're engaging in the fun. It's encouraged.
It is.
What's interesting about that? And for those who might be listening to this, you might wonder, well, when do they work? And I'm going to once again reinforce a couple things. Play is work. And there's something about the ability to have moments that are, I'd go even farther than encouraged, but are actually expected. That this is part of what makes this culture as strong as it is that play isn't something that sits over here on the side, or as you said, you can color when you go home.
Exactly.
But there's this recognition that being able to engage all your senses, being able to engage both your right-oriented thinking as well as your left-oriented thinking creates different and better outcomes. And Craig has the outcomes to prove it, both in terms of the patient and the family experience here, as well as us as employees. But so that's a little bit about some of the many ways we play, both large and small. We've talked a touch about this, but I'd love for both of you to talk about why does Craig play? Because some people might argue that play can be a distraction. It's why I felt it really important as part of this conversation to say, trust me, it has done nothing but improve our outcomes. It is not, in terms of what we see, the numbers of people who go home from here, the folks who get back to school from here, back to work. So some would argue that's a distraction. How would you counter that perspective?
I think it's intertwined so much in our culture and in our therapy and just in who we are. I don't think it's a distraction. I think it's such an asset. And people are going through such a hard time. They've just experienced this huge traumatic injury that's life-changing. And, then they were in, ICU or wherever they were for a while before they came to us. And they usually say that was really somber and serious. And then they get to us and they can start thinking about, okay, what's my new normal going to look like? And I just think showing that there can be joy and play and fun in it, there's no way that could be a distraction.
Yeah.
So I think it's also meeting people where they're at, that not everybody wants to do like the big Halloween thing and the big thing, whatever, but they can still have that play and that joy and doing, other little things that are fun and bring them happiness. And people can find ways to do that creativity. And I think it helps them to also deal with what has happened to them in the way that they need to.
One of the things I've wondered about with, just for a minute to go back to one of the big things, that insane trike race that we have in the summer with all of us dressed in themed costumes and the whole bit. I'd wonder what is going through the minds of patients, because it's at noon and patients and families are out there watching us make fools of ourselves as well. My answer to the question, and I'd love your perspective, Sara, is that it humanizes us. There's this concept of cultural humility, that this idea that we sit at the feet of our patients. We sit at the feet of those we serve. And yet we've got these, we don't wear them here, but white coats and stethoscopes and degrees and all the things. But us being that, we're eye to eye with our patients, if not, frankly, sitting down at their knees and looking up at them in terms of, oh, boy, did she just spin out. She's a CEO. She better learn how to drive that thing better. Now the truth comes out. But, just this whole idea, what do you think is the impact on patients of watching us play?
I kind of think it shows them that we believe in Craig. To go all out, to come up with your team name, to come up with your costume, to show up, take time out of your day and sign up ahead of time, say you're going to be in the trike races. That, to me, says to the patients, we're here for a purpose. We believe in our purpose. And it doesn't matter necessarily the format per se. It can be fun. It can be serious. There's time for both. But hey, let's all come together and remember, we can have fun.
I remember, Sara, when we were prepping for this, you said something that I think would be really important for those out there listening to have some conversation about. And that is that when you all are preparing for things, whether it's culture committee, big projects, or the Halloween big project, that you sometimes feel like guilty about the work that goes into prepping for this. And then I sounded like a mom when I said, don't feel guilty. What are you talking about? This is work. But talk about that, and even that conversation. And even if you think about the conversation, but how you've thought about it since.
And I have been.
Yeah.
No, that was good. I'm glad we said that before because I needed to hear that. I have we'll call him Jiminy Cricket sitting on my shoulder with a little conscience of you're here for your work. Your work is important. Your work comes in different forms, right? So I'm blessed that I get to design. And so to me, that's a form of play.
Yes.
But then to take it one step further and design a gingerbread house in the middle of the day, don't get me wrong, that is a blessing. And I'm so grateful for it. But yeah, it crossed my mind. I'm like, we should set a distinct amount of time and not take too long to do it, but we need to show up. We need to represent the foundation and we need to participate in this competition because it's important. But I feel a little bit guilty sitting here putting a gumdrop on a piece of gingerbread. But after this conversation and kind of reflecting, I think I'm wrong now, to be perfectly honest, because it is important. It's showing up for Craig. It's showing up for my teammates and being part of something that has become very quickly so important to the culture here. And that's why I joined Culture Committee way back when in the beginning. I see the value in having that fun thread being woven throughout everything we do. It makes it feel family. It makes me look forward to coming in every day to know that, hey, if I want to do this, we're going to make it happen. And same goes for the patients. If they want to do something, we're going to make it happen. We're not going to say no. We're going to find a way to do it. Yeah. And that's just really inspiring to me.
That's so cool to know that conversation was helpful to you to realize that this is work. And it's an element of Craig that was built in, I'll say from the beginning relative to Denny O'Malley's time, which goes back over 40 years ago now that he was here. He was here for 35. So actually, oh my gosh, it's like 50 years ago he started as I do the math. Because Mike was here 10, I've been here 5, and he was here 35. Yeah, that's a lot of numbers.
Oh, time flies.
And part of what he built in here was a profound sense of the importance of joy manifest through play or play manifests through the ways that we do it from a therapeutic perspective, because it is a heavy place. I mean, this is heavy. I talk to patients all the time. Nobody wants to come to Craig, and I'm glad we're here. And I'm glad we're here in the way we are, where birthdays matter, where the fact that you're here on the 4th of July doesn't mean that you're missing out, that there are ways we're going to celebrate it, both through food and through, I come over and give out tchotchkes, which is such a wonderful thing to get to do. What are outcomes that ladder up to and support the importance of strong cultures that have as many of the things that are in it, this notion of play and fun and joy? Forbes just recently named Craig the 9th best small employer in the country. And they looked at 10,000, ranked 300, and we were number 9. And so one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking is, and we've got the engagement scores to show it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your minds, what does engagement mean? And how good does it feel to know that you're part of that in some ways?
It takes it one step further than the simple act of coming in and doing your job as it's written on your job description, right? You take it a step further. You invest your time in a meaningful way, to me. You don't find that very often. You don't find the desire to take it that step further, or that 10 steps further, frankly, when we're here. And you feel good about that. To me, it's an honor to be part of something like that here.
Yeah.
It's being told yes instead of no to lots and lots of things. I had a patient once who was in the hospital on the day that they were going to get married.
Oh my God.
And they had made it official in the previous hospital for legal insurance and medical proxy and things, but the actual day came around and they were having a hard time. And we went out and got the flowers that they wanted and gave them to him. And we set up one of the conference rooms because he couldn't leave the hospital yet. He wasn't cleared medically to do that. And so we decorated that room in the colors that they'd wanted. And she gave us some pictures and we put them in little frames for them and got them a Grubhub gift card so that they could order what they wanted in. And I got them the pretend champagne things and sparkling juice. And we let them have an evening, a date night away in one of our conference rooms. And I don't know of a lot of places where you could do things like that. So when something is important to our patients and important to the staff, we figure out a way.
My suspicion is celebration happens in pockets. What I think distinguishes Craig is that it happens everywhere. It's not in pockets. There's not a department that in some way doesn't have the opportunity to kind of do this. And I loved what you said about yes. I mean, I that was like one of my epiphanies last year, thinking about actually not just what we do because of the power of healthcare coverage, that is insurance, but what we're able to do because of the foundation and the generosity of donors. I just went, oh my gosh, I am working in a place where we get to say yes. Craig gets to say yes on so many fronts, not just in terms of meeting the direct and obviously physical needs, sort of home-based needs, equipment needs of patients, but also the mind and the spirit needs, not just the body or physical needs, in some really cool ways.
That's one of my favorite things about working here, and a huge amount of my job satisfaction, because we can actually make a difference in someone's life in a way that, just isn't an option in a lot of other systems.
It's amazing what a difference that makes. And as we wrap up, what recommendations would you give to organizations looking to integrate more play into their workplace cultures?
I guess just how important it is. We've talked about ways that we've integrated it, but it's the culture of it too. Like understanding, I would recommend to other organizations, understand that this will help. It's not going to hinder. When you do things like bring fun into the workplace, it helps to build connections. It helps to make people feel more a part of the family when you have that play. And I think when people feel more invested, that's when they stay longer term with an organization. I mean, there's a reason that Sara at 6 years feels like a newbie still, and I'm at 8 years. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I guess I've been here for a blink of an eye, because it's true. People stay here a long time because it's a great place to work.
Yeah, and you know what? Back to data again, our retention numbers are unrivaled. They really are. Yeah, how about you? What recommendations would you give to organizations?
I mean, similar to what Sara said, I think happiness is going to stimulate productivity. Like, no question. I always say, and actually a lot of us in the foundation, since we are across the street, will come up when we need that little boost sometimes. Walk through the halls, grab something in the gift shop, just honestly, anywhere you go. And then I'll come back to my desk and be like, that's why I'm here. I'm invigorated and re-inspired. And I see us as stewards of the mission every day.
Well, thank you both for this. It was a real pleasure and privilege to get to sit with you all. And next time there's one of these big events, I'll know who the real oomph behind putting them on in a way that makes sure that we don't trip over the furniture, we don't burn anything down, and that friendly competition doesn't turn into fights.
Oh, gosh, no, yes.
Never.
I'm going to say it to you too. So, well, thank you for the time today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We've had the opportunity to record a number of these podcasts over the last year or so. I was thinking about these two that are part of this series on play and the importance of play in the workspace. And I hope that one of the things that you heard more than typically you hear was laughter. I've laughed so much this week, but the opportunity to sit with these great professionals and great human beings and give them the time and the space to reflect on the importance of play and how they've integrated it into not just their work life, but their home life. It was remarkable, and it was such fun. And I think one of the things that makes Craig special, and I think makes workplaces, and there are many of those that have these cultures out there that are, sort of known for that. What makes these cultures so remarkable, actually, Sara, I think, said it when she talked about how eyes light up. Well, you can see our employees' eyes light up at what is possible here. We can see it in our outcomes and our results. Do not think, and I certainly don't believe this, don't think for a moment that part of the magic of low turnover, high retention, high employee engagement, top small business rankings, one of the best rehab hospitals in America on the U.S. News ranking, is simply about the tools that we can see, touch, and feel. But recognize also that one of the really important tools, if I can use that word, in terms of building great cultures that get the kinds of outcomes we get, is the ability of each of us to bring our entire self into a place, to be vulnerable. We heard about that. To make yourself look silly in front of your patients, families, and your team members from different vantage points. To risk it all and get on an adult tricycle and go around a circle. To spend months dreaming and planning the competitions around gingerbread houses or the insane thing around here, which is Halloween. To integrate play in some of the most tiny but for patients and families, impactful ways in the therapeutic process that happens here daily. To know that I get to work in a place and get to come to a place where, in answer to the question that I asked all four of the folks that we had a chance to chat with, is there ever a day at Craig that play isn't happening? Is there ever a place at Craig that play isn't happening? And to get pretty straight up, no chaser, no, there isn't, speaks volumes about some things. I think it speaks volumes about our team members' agency to do what's best for themselves and for their team members and for patients. So that's something to think about as you think about the agency through the experience of and the execution of moments of play and creativity to have your employees give even more than they would have in other places. The importance of showing your whole self through the lens of vulnerability, and in the work we do, having that give license to freedom to patients to try things and to push beyond what can sometimes be some real limiting beliefs about ourselves that live in our brains. To be able to tie this in meaningful ways through the comments that you will see on the family's experience or the patient's experience of care here, or our employees' experience of their work life here, that this play, this notion of play comes out as well. And to know personally, there's this excitement, 5+ years now in this role of CEO and president of Craig. There's an excitement that happens as I pull into the parking garage and park and pull all the things together and jump out and hit the button that locks the door. And I start the trek into the building to know it's another day and heaven only knows what'll happen. But what I do know is that even in the toughest times, there will be several times during the day where I smile brightly, I laugh loud, and I am once again grateful for the opportunity to be part of and do my part to contribute to great cultures. And I'd encourage you to try it. I'd encourage you to not look at this as extra or as a waste of time, but actually as an opportunity as leaders for you even to be that kid again that lives inside of all of us and that sometimes we actually express at home. It can work wonders on your culture and on the people you serve if you bring that kid into work. So thank you for listening again to Unstoppable at Craig, and you can certainly access this particular podcast on any one of your channels that you use to access podcasts, and thanks for listening.